An entitled Karen abandons her child at our bookstore, leaving her in the corner just reading a book, as this Karen was under the false assumption that us, as employees at this bookstore, were just gonna sit here and babysit her child, while she ran off to another mall to go shopping. And as a result of her negligence, we ended up calling the police on this entitled Karen, resulting in her getting arrested right there on the spot. Here's what happened. So this happened a while ago, and I recently got reminded of it after meeting up with an old friend. So I thought that I would share this story because I know after 13 years in retail and customer service that many people would think that what she did was okay. Back when I worked in a bookstore at a shopping mall, there was this little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, just sitting quietly in a corner, and she was sitting there looking at the pictures of the book. Now at that moment, we had just noticed her because she was kind of hidden and tucked in a corner and was totally silent. We asked her where her parents were, and she said her mom was in the shop next to ours and told her to wait in the bookstore. We asked if she knew how long it had been, and she pointed to the hands of the clock of where they had been when her mom left, and I was shocked to find out that it had been nearly 3 hours. I still can't believe that kid stayed quiet for so long, and I'm still kicking myself for not noticing her sooner. We took her to the mall security, and they started looking for the mom. Well, that brainless woman was in another mall next to ours, and for a bit of reference, there are 3 smaller shopping malls on the same street all next to each other. Now, the mall security was shocked. One of them was a dad and went to get the kid biscuits and an apple juice, and he knew right away that she was really hungry after 3 hours all alone waiting for her mom. I will never forget how happy she was just munching on those chocolate chip cookies and sipping her juice box. They then called the police and protection services, with me and my colleague waiting with the kid so she wouldn't be too scared. Now, when the mom finally arrived, I swear she just did not understand at all why what she did was so wrong, and then got angry at us for going to security. She argued that her daughter was safe in our store and that she knew to not cause any trouble. Well, that got the police very suspicious because the kid was indeed very quiet and eerily well behaved. And looking back, it is pretty obvious that she was scared into being this quiet and calm child. The mother's justification was basically that since our store was selling books for kids and some toys, we were essentially babysitters, and that we were the ones in the wrong for not wanting to do our job and watch the children. Needless to say, the cops were just totally done with her and took her over to the police station, with the kid going to protection services. This mom was literally kicking and screaming, saying that she was going to sue us for slander and defamation. And of course, as you can probably guess, nothing ever even happened. But I hope that this little girl is now with better people, and that she is now with people who love and cherish her. Okay, that is an insane thing to do to your child, because seriously, what in the world was that lady thinking? She literally left her 6-year-old child at a bookstore and said, okay, have fun. Like, this isn't even like a teenager who can take care of themselves to some extent. This is a literal toddler just sitting there reading a book in the corner. Like, who knows what kind of bad things could have happened to that kid if those workers didn't notice them right away. So I'm really glad that the mom got in trouble, because this kind of behavior is completely inappropriate, and that kid did not deserve to be left like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mom and siblings that they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions after they ostracize our dad? Here's what happened. Okay, so my family is my dad, my mom, my 2 sisters, and my 2 brothers. And I'm a 17-year-old male, and I'm the oldest. My dad was estranged from his dad since he was my age, and his mom passed away when he was 10 years old. So we never knew grandma either. My dad was open about the fact that grandpa wasn't a very nice man and all kinds of stuff, but he never really went into details. I know he really did a number on my dad because I still sometimes see my dad look ashamed as if he spilled something or made some kind of mistake. I also know that he tries to hold back anytime he cries and looks downright disgusted with himself for crying. 3 years ago, his dad reached out and my mom and my sister were so excited and basically just welcomed him into the family. But my dad said no way. He and mom fought a lot about it, and my siblings all told dad that they had a right to know our grandfather and that he should love his dad. I was dragged along at first, but I stopped going. My dad refused to have any part of it, and my dad and mom fought a lot because he told her that his father was never going to step foot inside of our house, and if he did, then dad would leave and he would never come back. So mom takes my siblings to go see him. Well, Christmas was a huge fight last year because they decided to spend it with this dude, and my dad refused to go, and so did I. My siblings started crying into my dad's face that they wanted Christmas with him, and my mom was calling him selfish. She tried to look at me and say, "I'm your mother and you're going to listen to me." But my dad told her that he's my father and I could stay with him if I wanted to. They are still sour about it, but then my dad took me out for his birthday and didn't come home until late because he found out they were planning to take him out to meet with his father. My dad told my mom and my siblings, since he cannot trust them with his birthday, he will only celebrate with the people that he can trust now. I also heard him tell my mom that this could not continue and that they needed a divorce. Well, now my mom is freaking out because she doesn't want the divorce, and my siblings are really upset. They then told me that I should help out since dad and I are still close, but I told them that they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions. I pointed out to mom that she was always big on us learning, and I told them that this was a big one. My mom told me that my siblings are so young and they don't deserve this, but I told her it's all her fault because she undermined dad by making a point to demand that he come along in front of my siblings, and so they now think that they can manipulate him and not listen. So right now I'm at such an impasse and I seriously don't know what to do. Well, this is a classic situation of you mess around and then you find out. Like, the dad made it pretty clear that no, he does not want to see his dad, because clearly the grandfather in this story is not a good person. He ruined the original poster's dad in a lot of ways, and it sounds like this is a really sensitive subject. So the fact that your mom as well as your siblings are like, "Oh, come on, you just gotta see your dad. You need to love him. He's your dad." Like, that is beyond insensitive and it's so toxic. These people are idiots. Did they not expect that this was going to happen? Like, if I was the dad in this story and I had this kind of upbringing, I would be upset with my family as well. They are clearly disrespecting your boundaries and that's just not fair. So overall, this situation sucks for you and your dad because it seems like you're the only one who is really understanding how badly this is affecting him. And any consequences that come along because of this decision truly is all of their fault. Am I the jerk for replacing my maid of honor in my wedding, all because she refused to buy her dress for my wedding? Here's what happened. So I'm getting married in September, and all of my bridesmaids and I went shopping a couple of months ago. For some context, we're all in our mid-20s, we are employed, we have no children, and my wedding is out of town for my maid of honor and a couple of other bridesmaids. But as a consolation, I'm getting a hotel room for all of the out-of-town bridesmaids for the wedding. I've known my maid of honor since 5th grade, and we were best friends all through school. I moved away for college and we drifted apart, but I would see her every time I came home. The dress shopping trip was out of town, so I paid for the 2 hotel rooms while we were there, and I drove. My mom brought my maid of honor and a couple of other bridesmaids since they still live in my hometown. Now, when it comes to the dresses, my only requirement for them was that they had to be a very specific blue color and there had to be no satin material. We spent the whole afternoon trying on dresses and everyone found one that they liked, including my maid of honor. I've been told that she picked out a $350 dress when most of my other bridesmaids had dresses that were maybe about $150. The next day was spent relaxing at the pool, where my maid of honor began complaining to one of my other bridesmaids about having to pay for her own dress, saying that it was my wedding and that if I wanted a specific dress for them to wear, then I should pay for it, and that I didn't pay for the bridesmaid's dress when I was in her wedding. Well, my bridesmaid told her that I was being pretty reasonable with my request and that she can get any dress that she wanted in her budget. My maid of honor disagreed and the bridesmaid shrugged her off, but told me all about it later. A month later, my maid of honor called me and asked for me to buy her dress for her. I told her it wouldn't be fair if I bought her dress and no one else's, and I couldn't afford to buy everyone's dress. She said she is the maid of honor and that everyone would understand that it was a privilege that she got. Well, I disagreed, and our argument got a little bit heated. It ended with me saying that if she could not get the dress, she could not be in the wedding, and I was not budging on this. And after I said that, she hung up the phone on me. Her mom has since called me saying that I'm being very rude for not doing this one thing for her, also that she can be there on my big day, and that I don't know what it's like to not have money for things. I told her that I have struggled before too and understand, but also said I'm not paying for the dress because it won't be fair to all the other bridesmaids. Since then, I've made one of my other bridesmaids that has helped with all the planning my new maid of honor, and I've told my ex-maid of honor that she is still invited, and I did send her an invitation, but some family is telling me that I should have just paid for the dress. I know my ex-maid of honor is very tight on money, but she's known that she was going to be in my wedding for nearly 2 years at this point, so I thought that maybe she would set money aside for it. So am I the jerk for not paying for her dress? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. For starters, it seems like she got something like super expensive. She is literally spending $200 more than she needs to, when it sounds like the other bridesmaids have found like a reasonable cost. If she really can't afford that dress, then maybe get something cheaper. And for her to be like, no, you need to do that for me. I deserve it. Like, that level of entitlement is so annoying, and it's just so uncalled for. Because the original poster has so much on their plate as it is, that the last thing they need is to pay for another thing for this wedding. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and honestly, the way your former Maid of Honor was acting, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled mom allows her spoiled rotten children to hit me in the head with a beach ball over and over again while I was at the pool. So I decided to get some much needed revenge by secretly deflating the beach ball just to prevent these stupid kids from bothering me any further. Here's what happened. So yesterday was a rough day for me at the gym. Now, deadlifts are a wonderful exercise, make no mistake, but the last thing you want to do after completing a set of deadlifts is smile, or even just move in general. So rather than my usual plan of swim a few laps in the pool, I opted for floating around a little in the leisure pool at my gym. I moved from one spot to another, trying to steer clear of children doing what children do in the pool. Things like screaming, throwing toys around, swimming around without looking where they're going, and effectively turning leisure swim time into a sneaking mission. I was rather successful at this, right up until a boy who appeared to be around 7 or 8 years old decided to spike a beach ball into the back of my head. Now, it wasn't a huge one or very heavy, and there was little damage on my end. I figure it might have been a mistake, so I reclaim the beach ball and I give it to the boy who had thrown it at me. Well, less than a minute later, and I get hit in the head again, and so I reclaim the ball and I ask the kid nicely to stop throwing stuff at me. He then nods and smiles, and then I go back to what I was doing. Well, I can give you 3 guesses as to what happened next, and if you need more than one to assume the boy spiked the ball into the back of my head for the 3rd time, see me after class and we can figure this out. So after strike 3, I grabbed the ball and I asked the kid where his mom was. Well, mom, as it turns out, was reading a book on a lounge chair by the poolside. And as a side note, this place has an excessive number of lifeguards, meaning that it's definitely not as negligent as it would be at like a hotel pool or something like that. So I dragged the child and the volleyball up to the mom, and I explained that the kids hit me with the beach ball 3 times and it's really not cool. This entitled mom then decided to do the head toss thing, which is something you do when they're rolling their eyes behind huge sunglasses, and said something to the effect of, "It's just a beach ball, boys will be boys." I then toss the ball onto the mom's legs and I get back into the pool, keeping an eye out for that stupid kid. A few minutes later, I heard a muffled giggle behind me, and then I felt the soothing sensation of a beach ball to the back of my head for the 4th time. I reclaimed the ball yet again and intended on making eye contact with the kid and popping their ball right in front of them. But then the bad idea fairy hit me in the head with her magic wand, and I had an evil grin, not unlike the grin this kid gave me after strike number 1. So I tell the kid, "Come here, I want to show you something." And then I submerge the ball underwater and pinch the air nozzle, which makes the air bubbles shoot out. And this happens to look exactly like someone was farting underwater. Now, he's not strong enough to submerge the air-filled ball, so I tell him to get on top of it and use his body weight to sink the ball. He managed to do that, and his face lit up like it was Christmas morning and that he had gotten everything that he had asked for. He promptly swam off and found other people to annoy. I didn't get a ball thrown at me again, and the kid's mom was pissed that she had to blow up the beach ball again. She was asking her son how it went flat so fast when it was a brand new beach ball, all in between big gasps of breath trying to fill the beach ball up. The kid just points at me on my way to the locker room, and I just wave and say, "Oh, it's okay. Boys will be boys." And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Yeah, the original poster is a much better person than me, because I definitely would have popped that ball right in front of the mom. I would have been like, "Hey, this is strike number 3 and this is not going to happen again." And the second she would say, "Oh, boys will be boys," that's when I would turn around and be like, "Oh, really?" And then like rip the ball in half. Like, seriously, I'm trying to relax in the pool and I don't need people bothering me like that, especially someone stupid kid that's not being supervised. But I do think the way that the original poster handled this was really funny, and I don't blame them in the slightest for deflating that stupid beach ball. Am I the jerk for taking all the clothing in my size off the rack just so resellers couldn't grab everything before I looked through it? Here's what happened. Last week, I had time and stopped into a thrift store, and as I walked in, they were just putting out stuff from their truck. And trust me, I am never so lucky to be there when that happens, and the shops are always very picked over with just Old Navy or Target clothing whenever I go. So I was happy that I might finally find something. I started browsing normally and was finding some good stuff for once. Then I saw a group of 3 women come in. One had a little computer for scanning books, and the other 2 had iPads or something like that, and I'm assuming it was to check for resale prices. Either way, they were clearly resellers, and they started grabbing stuff after checking labels. I felt a sense of dread because I wouldn't be fast enough to check, so I just swooped everything off the rack and into my cart that was my size. When two of them got to me, they just started staring. I said to them, "What?" And one of them said, "We would like to be able to see what's on the rack as well." But I said that they could as soon as I was done. She scoffed at me and said, "That's rude. We'd like a chance to shop these clothes too." But I just ignored her and started looking at things one by one, taking my time and then putting them right back on the rack. The women were getting mad and snatching things basically out of my hand. I held up a nice top and one of them tried grabbing it out of my hand. I then said, "Excuse you," and I turned my back to her. Well, they got all pissy and one stomped off to get a worker. The worker came over and asked what was going on. I said I was looking at items from the rack, same as anybody else, but they said I was hoarding everything so that they wouldn't get a chance to look. Well, the worker said that I wasn't doing anything wrong, and then they said to me, "Thank you so much for putting everything back when you're done." I finished what I was doing with the women breathing down my neck, and I took my clothes to go and try them on. One of them kept following me and asked me what my problem was, and asking why I was being such a jerk. But I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, but it's really not my problem." So am I the jerk here? I just wanted the chance to be able to find nice clothes for once, and from my point of view, I didn't do anything different than people who fill up their carts and then go and try everything on. Plus, I didn't even take all the good clothing to begin with. What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, but I think you're absolutely right that these people were definitely going to sell that crap online. They were not there to shop, they just wanted to try and get as much clothing as they could and then resell it to try and make a profit. And that really sucks for the rest of us who just want to find good products at a cheap price and try and I don't know, get clothing that lasts that we might enjoy. And the women in this story were just acting like vultures the entire time. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that if she didn't want kids, then she should not be expecting a huge Mother's Day celebration? Here's what happened. Okay, so growing up, my dad stayed at home while my mom worked. While my mom financially provided for my sister and myself, she was emotionally hands-off. She came to a ballet recital here and there, but she didn't want to help out with homework, she didn't want to listen when we needed advice, as well as many other things growing up. Our dad did 95% of the emotional labor. I later found out from my mom that my dad was the one who wanted kids. She loved her career and didn't mind providing financially, but she did not want to do any of the stuff related to raising us outside of that. I am very grateful that she provided for us financially, but I do admit that it hurts that she wasn't there when we needed her. She was physically present, but not emotionally present. And as this comes up, to be clear, the arrangement was my mother's idea and not my father's. That being said, I do agree that my father was equally as selfish for making this arrangement. Now, my dad always did grand gestures for her. Mother's Day was always a big deal with a huge brunch and flowers and lots of gifts. She was always super spoiled on that day, but she did nothing for him on Father's Day. He had to do everything for himself until my sister and I were old enough to do something for him. I get that was the arrangement they had, but I know it made my dad sad. I once asked why he didn't get the same hoopla that our mom got, and he just said that Father's Day isn't as important as Mother's Day. As adults, my sister and I have tried to rectify it. We do Father's Day very big, and our dad loves it. We grill for him just how he taught us, and we throw a huge barbecue with some other family members. However, we've turned Mother's Day into a very low-key event. We still celebrate our mom, but she usually gets a quiet lunch at a restaurant of her choice and a few gifts. After my mom ended up skipping my sister's baby shower this year, all because she didn't see the big deal with someone having a baby, my sister wanted to do nothing for her. We did send her some gifts, but we spent Mother's Day with each other, our husbands, and our own kids. My mom told us after Father's Day that she was hurt that we didn't do more for her in the recent years, but I said that since she put in almost no emotional labor into raising us, we've decided that we're putting none into her. She said, well, our father and I had an agreement, and I pointed out that yes, that might be the case, but we never agreed to it, and it wasn't fair that we grew up with an emotionally absent mother who literally just didn't want us. And to be fair, we have had this conversation with our dad as well, and he admits that it wasn't fair to us either. I also said that if she didn't want kids, then why should she be celebrated as a mom? My mom is upset with the both of us and called us some ungrateful brats. My dad feels bad for her but supports our choice. So am I the jerk for not really doing much for my mom on Mother's Day? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you have every right to spend time with the family member that you want to be around. Like your mom treated you and your siblings like garbage. She refused to be there for you emotionally and just didn't show up when it counted for your emotional needs. Sure, she was physically there, but that's like one half of the equation. situation. I really do think your parents are idiots for setting this up in the way that they did, because it put way too much pressure on the dad to literally provide all the emotional labor, when in reality that easily could have been split between the two of them. So that first and foremost really sucks. And you know what? My parents were very busy with their career while I was growing up, but they still decided to be present in my life regardless of how busy they were. They didn't just put food on the table and then walk away. They would put food on the table and spend time with me. They would be there for me and they would listen to my needs and my wants in life. And I think that's a mark of a good parent. So in that regard, your mom missed the mark. And it really seems like she's just willfully ignorant to how stupid she was being while you guys were growing up, because this all could have been avoided so easily. All she had to do was be more present in your life, and then the kids would be more than happy to be involved in your life. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, because I think the way your mom's acting is super selfish. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.